It's recording. Were we not recording the whole time?
Seems like every road you're on is hit a dead end. There is hope. Let me show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 13.
Good Lord above.
Good Lord Jesus. I hope everybody's doing good. I am not feeling the greatest, and I'm hoping that we'll feel better soon here. But, Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
You
Yes.
made it.
It's Sunday. We did it.
It's Sunday. I don't know about your weather, but my weather is not dandy, so I'm staying inside at all times possible.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hoodie weather. I have been collecting hoodies even throughout summer, so looking forward to that.
Funny.
Why so funny?
It's going to take till October for that to be a thing.
Yep, but it's going to be the best once October hits. Hoodies, come on. So,
Well, that'll be good because we don't run the heater in the winter, so you'll be needing it.
That's part of the reason why I wear hoodies all the time. Anyway, welcome to episode 13, everybody. We got a rough idea of what's going to happen. I'm blanking out on the game plan because we made the game plan maybe 15 minutes ago. Zach, I'm going to pass it to you nonchalantly for you to talk about our game plan today.
Yeah, we're going to start this episode with just the concept of how to navigate trying to get out of abuse, not just within yourself, but with people around you, and the feedback you get, the complications you get, and not necessarily make this centric to our story, although I'm sure we will contribute to it, but just to allow this to kind of be a conversation of things that we've noticed, things that we've seen. And while we're not necessarily experts in this field, we have a lot of experiential knowledge that I think both of us have acquired as we've gotten older and we've done the work to go towards the path of healing and freedom. So we're just going to start it and kind of see how it goes.
Sure.
And I think it'll be good. I think the fun challenge will be, I've been trying to talk less and less and make this actually be a conversation. So Ellie has to contribute a little bit more than what she's used to. So
I'm going to interrupt.
No, I just think she should talk more. She should talk more. So it's going to be fun. So with that,
sorry, it looks like I'm crying. I'm not. For those of us who watched YouTube, I'm not crying, I promise. I put peppermint oil on my face because I feel nauseous and it makes me cry. So Zach's words are not making me cry, I promise. Not this time anyways.
She's crying because she doesn't have peppermint mint chip ice cream, and that makes her sad.
Someone got angry at me. Not angry, but was upset and thought I was ridiculous to have that be my favorite ice cream.
Mint chocolate chip?
I'm determined. Yeah, because they were saying, why do you want toothpaste as your favorite ice cream? So now I need to change my flavor.
But that's not like the only flavor you like, though.
No, I do like Baskin Robbins baseball nut. Has
yes,
cashews and cherry and stuff like that. What's your favorite ice cream while we're talking about that? Or a good go-to?
It kind of depends, but one of my favorites is pistachio ice cream with espresso poured on top of it because it makes it really nutty. I like pistachio just in general. So that one's a good one. I like black cherry. That's a pretty good one. I like old people flavors. So,
Yeah.
I'm not like a crazy name type flavor kind of. I mean, I'll eat it, but I kind of like more old people flavors, I guess.
You don't want the triple chocolate
I
devour.
I just don't think that I don't know. I just don't think that like peanut butter chocolate mud pie whatever, like sometimes there's just too much, and it's like
Yeah.
I like just one or two things, but I'll eat it. Like I won't say I dislike it, but yeah, pistachio is always a good one because it's not
Yeah.
super sweet and you feel like you can get more if you wanted,
I think for me, baseball nut is, for me, my turning point to start liking old people stuff, because I never thought I would like cashews in my ice cream. Anyway,
what's your
besides
favorite ice cream
flavors.
viewers? Put it in the comments.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what kind of trauma you must have.
Right. And tell us why that's your favorite, so that way we can get a better understanding of your trauma.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. I think to segue back to our main topic, I think to segue into what into us even having this conversation to begin with is our last episode was with Alice Mills, where she was able to share her insight of the abuse that she endured with her ex-husband and how she got out, and what is today's society compared to her story. How is it similar? What's it different? How is it different? And honestly, just to piggyback off that idea, wanted to build the conversation between Zach and I in why do we see abuse being normalized in today's society, and how have we seen people, whether in front of cameras, behind the camera, behind the curtain, getting out and running away, or staying, and why. And I know that there's people in my circle at work and in my knowledge in my circle in personal life that are still enduring some of these things. And I know from Zach to me, I've experienced him being very frustrated and wishing I would choose for freedom and get out of scenarios like our father. And I'm only laughing. If anyone on Spotify is listening, Zach is smiling with a grin and agreeing with everything I'm saying because I'm amazing. Yeah, no. So all that to say, it's so interesting to see today's society wanting to both call out abusive behaviors while also simultaneously, I believe, are staying in those abusive scenarios and relationships and maintaining those relational status. Like, if it's not a relationship of a potential future forever partner, it's from a relative, and they decide to keep that relationship because, oh well, that's, I don't know, Aunt Becky. I don't know. I'm sorry if there's a Becky who's not not abusive, but they just assume and take the load of that relationship, and that's what it is. We got to deal with it. Instead of, you know what? No, I'm not gonna have that relationship because it doesn't do me any good and it actually is causing more damage to me. I don't want to keep that relationship. Zach, when it comes into that aspect and that paradigm of people can point it out, but they still decide to stay in it, what do you think is your opinion when it comes into that specific idea? Why do people still stay even though they know the behaviors are damaging?
I think there's a lot of different reasons, and I think every reason that people create is tied to their own insecurities, their own issues, their own self righteousness. You know, I don't think there's one common. I think if you wanted a one word answer that is across the board, it would probably just be fear. And I think that fear just has a bunch of different spider web threads that connect to different
Mm.
variations of what fear means. It could be fear of abandonment, it could be fear of losing control, it could be fear of conflict, it could be um, fear of getting in trouble, looking like a bad person. You know, I think there's just so many different. You know, we, I think, kind of going back to last episode, you know, Alice pretty much stated that you have two choices when it comes to life. You can either choose freedom or tyranny. And
Yeah.
you can make the excuse that 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we didn't know what we know now. But the problem is we still respond like we did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we have the knowledge, but we just don't do anything with it. And that's a choice. And so when you get down to it, you have to admit that people are choosing to have tyranny. They're choosing to stay. They're choosing to put up with it, whether it's because they think it's better or they think it's safer or so I mean, I think fear has a huge component to it, and I think that everyone has their own narrative that they tell themselves. You know,
If I could jump on that idea
Yeah.
real quick.
Go for it.
The first instinct I have to challenge that idea is looking at people who may counter that idea and say, okay, great, I'm fearful, but if I actually want to make a decision to change the status, what do I do to change that? And some people will still stay in that fear and not even think beyond that,
Mhm.
because even thinking past or beyond their current state is bad or a problem.
Mhm.
I remember a time in my life where I just was processing and handling an emotionally mature level was completely non-existent to where I am at today. But I also know not everybody has my testimony, same as not everybody has your testimony. If we were to encourage someone to not operate in fear, what would you suggest they would need to consider? I have my 2 cents in this, but I want to figure what you think should be, if we have any listeners or listeners who are friends of those in abusive scenarios that are operating in fear.
Mhm.
What would you tell them?
I think there's a song called Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. And I think anyone who's ever listened to that song and listened to the lyrics, it's a very sad song because it's about Tracy Chapman trying to talk to her person, this unnamed person that she wants to escape with. And every verse, there's like 4 or 5 verses in this song, so it's a long song. But every verse, it progressively gets to a point where her person that she's trying to run away with doesn't want to go. They want to stay. And every lyric before you get to the chorus says, the lyric is, you got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can drive away? We got to make a decision, leave tonight or live and die this way. And I think that when you really put it to the test, musically, non-creatively like that. I think everyone has to come to a breaking point. And I've learned that everyone has their own threshold for what they're willing to tolerate. It's not the same for every person. Some people cannot tolerate anything, and some people tolerate, quote unquote, everything. And you will get to a point in your life where you have to make a decision. Is this what the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, like, am I just going to deal with this until the day that I die and just keep the status quo? Or am I going to be brave enough to break this and
Yeah.
stand on my own 2 feet, knowing that the world will be against me, knowing that the people that I care about might go against me? And that's frightening, and I'm not trying to downplay that, but you get to make a choice of, I'll put it this way. I'll just speak to the believers in the room. You were not put on this earth to be a pawn of an abuser. You were not built to be the whipping person, the person that gets abused, so that way your abuser doesn't abuse other people. You weren't put on this earth to appease a monster. You were put on this earth with a mission, with a plan, with a ministry, with a purpose. And if you decide to stay under the influence of an abuser, you are forsaking the purpose and plan that God has put you on this earth for. Because you're serving an abuser. You're serving someone else. You're not serving the Lord. And people who love you would go, look, you need to go on with what the Lord is calling you to do. If it means you need to go move away, you need to go take this job, you need to go into this ministry or this occupation, or leave the state, leave the country, whatever you got to do, go, right? People who don't want that will get you to stay to serve them. And the Bible says you can't serve 2 masters.
No.
And I think what's really hard in the Christian world, and even just in the world itself, we like to think that we can exist in no man's land, which is, to the left of us, we have evil. To the right of us, we have good. And in the middle, we can just straddle the fence and stay there and not have to make a decision. And that just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the Bible. It doesn't exist even in the world, no matter how many times people will try to tell you that, everything is relative and you can make whatever reality you want. You cannot. It's like that game in tag. Sometimes you play tag hardcore where if you touch someone, you're it, but then there's, but this is safe. There's no safe when it comes to your life. There's no location, there's no structure, there's no idol, there's no God that you can hold on to in the midst of the turmoil around you and go, this can't touch me because I'm safe. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's kind of like people think that, I have these issues, but if I get married, they'll go away. Or once I have kids, my partner will love me more. Or if I get this job, then all the stress will go away. And it's like, you have all these pillars that we tell ourselves that if we just get to this thing, it'll just blanket over everything else that we've been carrying. And so I don't know. I just think that people have to, this isn't me saying this, I'm borrowing it from someone else, so I'm not taking credit for this, but I think the kindest thing you can do for yourself is live in reality. And reality means accepting things for what they are and identifying it truthfully so that you can make a decision. Are you going to go this way or go that way?
I think the challenge in that, though, is I think there's a lack of knowledge when it comes into living in reality. People may interpret that as living in their truth when that's not what living in reality is. Living in reality is being willing to take your circumstance and zoom out and see all the other circumstances around you, to recognize that your circumstance, your scenario, your um experience that you're having is either healthy or unhealthy, dysfunctional,
Mm-hmm.
on the path for healthy. So I needed to go back to another point that you made on, you're not put on this earth for enduring the abuse and enduring all these things. I know there's some people, they may know about this episode or not, that operate and believe that if they stay, th- they'll be healed. There's going to be a breakthrough. There's going to be something happening because I stayed, and because I didn't challenge, and because I kept their secret, or something in that belief that if I decide to stay and not move, something good's going to happen. Granted, there are stories in the Bible of staying with the Lord, but physically staying and maintaining abuse is not what he's called. And do you follow what I'm saying? Sorry, I'm noticing your eyes are.
No, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm following.
Yeah. And I think you've even told that story to me probably 50 plus times or more, of we're not put on this earth to endure the abuse, rightfully so. So I'm just thinking of the listener. If I'm hearing that I'm not supposed to endure the pain, then what am I supposed to do? I don't know how to get out, or I don't know what to do next. The next step, honestly, is just to start speaking up and noticing and looking around. I think of an ostrich when they stick their heads in the dirt. They're just trying to avoid everything around them. I don't know if that's actually true or if it's just a cartoon, but be willing to take your head out of your scenario and look around you, not to compare for the sake of comparing, but to compare so that way you can see other scenarios around you and start noticing, wait a minute, they seem happier, or they seem healthier. Why do they talk to each other so friendly? Or there's so minute details in society today that I think we oversee, because the peace and the calm is so rare in today's chaos. And it's crazy to look at. I'm going to pinpoint to a different point real quick. It's crazy to look at the fact that we have TV shows and streams and games that are all based on toxicity. And I don't know, for instance, there is a show, I'm not going to name the show, but it's all based on the audience watching the show to vote on whether or not they think that this love couple are going to make it, or let's actually pick and choose a match, and let's see if these two will match. No, well, he works better with this girl and this girl works better with that girl. So it's literally the audience choosing love for somebody else when they can't even figure out what they want in their lives. So they audition to be part of a show where someone else chooses their love. Or another scenario where there's a show or a movie that's talking about getting out of abuse, but in reality, they just decide to stay in it so that way they can love on that person. Our society loves drama, and we're shown time and time again in movies and in shows and any other distractions of this world that this drama is where we thrive and get our adrenaline, and so therefore it's good. And it's so normalized and accepted into our lives, so we should just accept it into our own personal lives since we see it on TV and ads and whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going on my own tangent here. Zach, take it away.
I think to answer the hyperbolic question of okay, well, I noticed that I'm in an abusive situation, but I don't know anything to get out of it. It's kind of like, I get that, but when have you ever done something as an expert?
Yeah.
You had to learn math, English, history in school. You had to learn a job before you got hired. And even if you know that job, every place does it different. So if you go and get another job with the same title and same experience, you still have to, it's not just you're an expert and you can do it in your sleep. I don't know why we have this belief that I can't do anything because I'm not an expert in that, or I can't have an opinion because I'm not an expert. Well, guess what? Even experts are not experts. They're continuously learning and they're continuously changing their preconceived ideas and beliefs and whatever. I mean, you're a little too young for this, but I mean, experts 20, 30 years ago said eggs were the most dangerous food for you to ever eat.
What?
Yeah, it was. It was, if you eat them, it'll raise your cholesterol and you need to eat tofu instead. And now they're a superfood. And it's because you find out when you do the research that the reason why they said that was because they would shove dozens of eggs into a rabbit and then test its cholesterol and go, look, see, it raises cholesterol. And it's like, yeah, that's like shoving 12 rotisserie chickens in a human size and then testing the blood going, see how unhealthy this is, right? So experts aren't even right. And I'm not saying that as a means to challenge anything. I'm just saying that we do ourselves a disservice by coming up with excuses to stay, especially when they're not really valid ones. It really comes down to, do you want to be free? I mean, you can come up with the most eloquent excuse to stay in abuse if you want to. You can. But at the end of the day, the real question is, do you want to be free? And yes, I know there are people out there who go, well, okay, but what about when you have kids in the situation? Where you're supposed to go? Who's going to take you in? Like, no, I get it. I'm not saying that immediately once you make that decision, you now have to have the next 10 years of your life figured out with an escape plan. But you have to start somewhere. And that's where I believe, when you partner with God, you have to start somewhere. And as long as you're pursuing Him, He meets you and clears the path and gets you to where you need to go. One of the best things, I'll even use a non-religious example. It's a secular example. One of my favorite scenes in TV is an episode of The Office where I think it's like season 2 maybe, where Michael's boss Jan is doing like a all women's kind of day just to kind of encourage women in the workforce or whatever, and she sees Pam drawing and doodling and she goes, oh, you know what, like we actually have a design component to our company and it's low cost. You can learn how to design ads and take your art and illustrate it, and I think it'd be really great for the company. And Pam's like, no, it's okay, I'll just stay here and I really like my life here, and gave all the excuses. And Jan said, Pam, I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before, but it's just as Pam, there's always a million reasons not to do something.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's so accurate. I've even caught myself in this last month of talking with God and trying to figure out plans for my life and where I'm supposed to go. And I will come up with reasons why it won't work. I will come up with reasons why it's stupid to go in this direction. It's unwise to go here. I don't have the money to do this. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I don't have, it's a scarcity mindset. Scarcity is, I'm looking around and I realize while you have a buffet of food, I have 3 walnuts in my hand. It's scarce and I have to make this last, and that's not God talking.
No.
And so really what it comes down to is, do you want to be free? And what is God saying? And I
Well,
think that's
and
complicated because a lot of people think that their pastor speaks on behalf of God, or because they
sure.
can't audibly hear God, they'll look at examples like Hosea, where uh, God told him, "Hey, I want you to marry this prostitute, and for the rest of your life, she's going to leave you, and it's going to be your job to go get her back and buy her out of slavery, and pay for the debts that she has every time she leaves you." Like, so we will take the Bible and go, this obviously must be what I'm supposed to do because Hosea did it. And you can make that argument, but you're also looking for reasons to justify where you're at. And I think that really it comes down to, if you are in an abusive situation where the person does not want to change, does not care about you, and is determined to have you experience their wrath, then you have to make the decision: do I want to leave and be free, or am I going to make up an excuse for me to tolerate this? And you can't. That's an individual thing. There's nothing magical that we can ever say that will just make someone snap out of abuse. We're not that
Right.
powerful.
No.
And we're not that. We can't change people. They have to want it. Just like a relationship, you have to have two people who want it to work come to the table and make it work. And you can't make someone want to change or be different.
No.
And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there's no complications. I'm not saying that there's not risks involved. All I'm saying is you have to make like, for me, when I was trying to escape my abuser as a young adult, I had to get to a point where my internal monologue was, I go live at home for free, but you have an abuser, or go live on a stranger's couch and you might have to pay rent, but at least you're free. And I was at a point where I'm like, I would rather pay money to sleep on a stranger's sofa for a few days and be quote unquote homeless, if it meant that I did not have to be abused. And thankfully that was never my reality, but I had to get to that point where I was like, even if that's going to be my life for the next 5-10 years, is it worth it? Is my freedom, is being free, being healthy, having peace worth fighting for?
Yeah.
Or do I go back and put up, quote unquote, put up with stuff? And everyone has to make that decision. And some people have the courage to do it, and some people don't. And it's really hard, I think, when you're trying to navigate life and you have people who have different belief systems, different creeds and opinions for what's right and what's not right. And I think that's what allows a lot of Christians to be in a state of isolation and pain. And it's not pain, and it's not, I'm not talking about like life, like, I'm not coming out and saying like the Lord wants us to live a happy magic carpet ride life. I'm not saying that. There's always going to be moments where we lose a job, we experience a death in the family, we get sick. There's always going to be moments in our lives that are not fun, that are not great, and it's challenging. And in fact, the Bible says that your days are going to be full of trouble, right?
Sure.
But there's a difference between life doing that organically and choosing to be in a situation where you are being dishonored and you're not being loved. And I don't know why. I think nowadays a lot of I think nowadays it's becoming a little bit more there's more credence for, okay, if you're being abused hardcore, yes, divorce, leave your spouse, Um, so it's starting to kind of get there, which is good because the lesson we need is people being in abusive situations like that. Where it gets
Mhm.
complicated and more muddy is our situation where it's your family. It's not a spouse. But
Right.
it's your family. It's your parent, your brother, your aunt, grandparent. It's that's where it gets challenging, and there's less grace there. I feel like, or there's more of a I don't know. Like there's just more of this perspective that because it's within the family, well, that's just family,
Yeah.
and it's like, all
Well,
right.
and I wanted to speak into I think I think there are some people who don't fully grasp that they're in an abusive status of some sort, whether it's family or their partner. And one way to help navigate whether or not you're in a scenario that is bad and you're just too close to it to really realize it is, are you making excuses for them? Are you making excuses for them to behave a certain way because, I actually was wrong? But you don't come together and actually find a moment to, hey, I want to settle and resolve with the situation that happened. Uh, just the ratio of, are you creating excuses for them in order for you to stay?
Well,
And
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, can you talk like so when you were talking about that, I have just memories of simple things where like you were when you moved back home and you were living at the house that we grew up in, and your abuser would like ramble on for 40 minutes to an hour to you while you were trying to leave the house, you know, like, and yet you were in a position where you were still hoping for the best, that he would snap out of it, that the Lord would heal him, and that he would seek the light and all these
Mhm.
things. So it's like, once upon a time you were there, you were in a spot where you're like, look, who knows what'll happen, but as I'm going to stay here, let me try to do my best to see what will like maybe positively come forth from that. So is there any example or any memories that you have where you can kind of attest to that and go like, yeah, there were like, what was your mindset back then when you were hoping for the best and the option to leave was there, but you weren't really wanting to take that option yet. You were still trying to hope for the best.
I was not emotionally as present then. We're talking almost 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where I I did not know how to self-regulate my own emotions and figure out what is going on with Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
How does Ellie feel? Let's figure out the why and
Mm-hmm.
what can we do about it.
Right.
I just felt like crap, and I would leave the house and just stay in my car. That's how I self-regulated. I left the house, I stayed in my car for 5 hours, and I go back home.
Mm-hmm.
Or at that time too, I was also very emotionally um I can't think of the word. I did not want to stay in my emotions. Whatever emotions I had, I didn't want to have them. So I would go get high or go and find a person to have sex with just to get over whatever bad feelings I was feeling because I didn't want to feel them. And then that it ended up me just continue pushing and shoving everything underground for me to the point where I was extremely stuck. Like that ostrich that I was just talking about. I was just stuck. And I knew that I was going crazy, but I didn't know what to do. So I'll just go ahead and continue pushing it and shoving it away. I'll figure it out. But I also was dealing with years leading up to that point of running away. I ran away up north. I ran away to this relationship, that relationship. I moved out of that house into that house, into that house. Moved across the country to Texas with one partner. Started another relationship. Started another relationship. Moved out of this apartment. Moved out of that apartment. Ended up homeless. Like, I was running away constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was avoiding every single emotion I could because I didn't want to sit with it. I wanted the chaos. I wanted the adrenaline because that's all the chaos was the norm for me back then. And so what can I do to chase that feeling, because that's the normal, right? So in terms of thinking of making excuses and whatnot, I was so brainwashed to believe that my father was a hero that what he fed into me to believe about you, Zach, or about Mom, I was starting to think those things. That's how brainwashed I was. So I can't believe Mom did that to him. I can't believe Zach did that to Mom. I can't believe Zach did that to my father. Why would they treat them like that? Thinking that you two were going against my father. So my story in terms of making excuses isn't quite 100% applicable because of how brainwashed I was. But I know that outside of the abuse of my father, there's scenarios and people that I've made excuses for them to be feeling what they're feeling, like my potential partners. I realize now, if I had stayed in one of my last relationships, I was going to be in a domestic violence situation there. Their violence didn't show until we became long distance, and they were very frustrated in the season that we were at, and it went downhill very quickly. But I started making excuses of he's going through a lot right now. He's under a lot of stress right now. I understand that he was mad at me, but I understand that his fuse is a little shorter than most people, but that's okay. I'll love him anyways. Or a different partner thinking that if I just show them what love is, then they'll love me. If I fill up their cup, they're going to be able to fill up my cup with what I just gave them. That didn't work because their cup was actually shattered.
Yeah. Well, and so then talk about then too, when you did start healing,
Mm-hmm.
you started regulating your emotions, you started going through that path. You were then taking ownership of your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your responsibility, your life, all that stuff. And you were still trying to make a relationship with your abuser work. You were going to counseling together. You were trying to go on breakfast dates, dinner dates, whatever little outings, to have a relationship, to try and restore, try to build, try to explain, try to show, whatever, all of the above. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but you were in a season for a while of, let me try to navigate how to have a relationship with my father who has done all of these things, but let's see if healing is around the corner. And I bring that up because when you were talking in the beginning of this episode, and you were like, yeah, Zach, you at least 50 times tried to tell me go this way or think about things that way. And I shook my head
Mhm.
obnoxiously, yes. I as your brother had to let that go and go like, look, as my sister, and I'm not even saying that I did this in the right way or it came across this way, but it's like, look, I've already chosen my path. I've chosen my life. I've chosen what I am and am not willing to do. My sister has her own.
Yeah.
And if that's what she wants to pursue, then that's what she's going to pursue. I can't help her in that area because it's not what I would do, but she's a human and she's a person and she has every right to go about her life the way that she wants, even if I think it's unhealthy or incorrect or she's doing it for the wrong reasons or she's not seeing things the right way. So there was a lot about your situation that I had to take a step back on and not give my advice and feedback. So as someone like you who eventually has gotten to the point that you're at now, you didn't start there. Like meaning
No.
you got there, but it didn't start there. There was still this: do I stay or do I go? Do I stay or do I go? And
Yeah.
so what was that ping pong fight like of going back and forth of why am I staying? What excuses am I giving to stay
Right.
here? Like, was it family? Was it God? Was it church? Was it I'm gonna go to hell if I don't? Was it I don't want to live a life where I don't have a parent in my life? What was keeping you to hold on to whatever hope it was that you had?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. So, everything that I explained of I was pushing every emotion away, I believe that was all a symptom because I wasn't breaking through to my father, our father, but he was more my father at the time. Where I say my father because I was trying to have a relationship and he wasn't changing. And anyway, I'm trying to explain myself. Anyway, mind you, there was only, I think we calculated 6 months after I came back until the big blow up happened. And then I said, never mind. Or that was my last straw. And I was just taking 4 more months after that to finally say no more. But I thought at that time period that I was going to be his breakthrough to finally see the truth. We know now that's not the case, and I am not that capable. Only God can do that. I thought he could do that through me, but another part of me was fighting with but I'm his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm technically his first child,
Mm-hmm.
but biologically. Can't he see that? Can't he value that? Don't I mean that much to him?
Yeah.
I need to dig into that a little bit deeper because there's more to it.
I know there has to be more to it because I mean
Yeah.
I recall countless times where you and I would talk where our relationship was not restored, yours and mine was not restored, but there was enough of a trust there where we could talk about things that were going on, and that was always maybe I didn't like back then. um I wasn't like as outright about it, in terms of um being super structured with my questions, but I would always press that, like, why are you staying? Why are you pursuing this? You know,
Right.
and I'm sure there's a lot that you'd have to kind of go back on and think and be like, why did I do that? And what's the real answer? And what am I unearthing here? But I never knew what was getting you to stay. and I never knew, like, I know there was times I would ask you, like, what is it going to take for you to walk away?
Yeah, I
And
remember you asking that.
there wasn't really an answer or retort.
No.
Um, but I don't even know if you can look back now, go back in time and kind of go like, what was holding me back from walking away? Or
Sure.
what was I fighting in terms of the idea of not having a relationship? What was I telling myself of, if I go that route, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or I'm not going to get this, or like, do you have any recollection of anything like that?
No, I just remember trying to survive. Mind you, so I needed to think out loud for me to remember where I was at. I moved back August 2022. A month later, went to our local fairgrounds that we have, and I got introduced to a potential job that I was ended up having uh fulfilled in the next 3 months from then. And that job was my healing ground. Uh but it was also the escape that I got away from the house. So I still wasn't fully understanding or grasping. Zach, I was so stuck and I didn't know how to move forward. I remember I had counseling sessions on my laptop or on my phone in the parking lot of that job and trying to process what to do and trying to process outside of depression, outside of anxiety, learning tools to get out of the funk that I was in when they would get really, really, really bad, and then back to a -2 or whatever was my neutral ground, but always really bad. I was so stuck that I couldn't acknowledge the fact that the relationship I was trying to maintain with an abuser was actually the cause of all these symptoms, when I thought all these symptoms were actually the problems, if that makes sense. So
No, I mean, that makes sense.
I thought I was being, oh gosh, I'm gonna cry. I didn't think I was gonna cry today.
Go for it.
I thought I was a good daughter. I thought if I stayed, I'd be a good daughter. I thought if I could stay and prove to him I'm staying by his side, and I'll endure the chaos and mind you, I haven't tapped into this for a hot minute and didn't realize that's what it is right now.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You owe me ice cream.
Oh.
Just I thought I was being a good daughter to a father who I know he was dealing with a quote unquote dealing with a lot, or at least that's what the thought process was. I know he's dealing with a lot. I know he's bipolar. I know he's extremely depressed. I know he's this. I know he's that. All the diagnoses that he's been told, and we've been told this is why he's the way that he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought in staying with along with the chaos that I already explained I've been enduring and was still dealing with, and thankfully we closed all those doors. I thought I could prove my love. I thought I could prove my love to him for him to not hurt me. And thought I could outlove the abuse. And Isaac, I didn't even tell you this. We have a garage that I had to put all of my stuff that I moved from Texas and whatnot into town. And I went through papers. I found the email that I sent many years ago that I think we said it on a podcast, maybe we didn't. Essentially, I found more emails that I had sent to our counselor, and reading them, they're now, today's 2025, back 2014. I was barely in high school then, and I'm reading them and thinking nothing has changed. I'm explaining to the counselor, because their marriage counselor becoming my counselor, I just emailed, this is what's going on, this is what happened, these are the things that he said, and golly, God bless her, because I can imagine the chaos that she was trying to figure out and being led by the Lord to figure out how to navigate. And by the way, she's talking to a 16-year-old or so person who's trying to navigate what to do. And I'm telling her that my father doesn't know how to handle the marriage. He's talking to his kids and saying, what did I do wrong? How did I upset your mom? And that backwards train of thought, he made me believe that I could maintain and regulate his emotions and help him be a better husband. Isn't that psychotic?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think so.
So, of course, when it came into now being at the time 25 and trying to figure out what to do, I was groomed into thinking for 20 years I can regulate and make him a better husband to my mom. I can regulate him to think of these gifts and think of these things to love on her and all these beautiful things. So since he's entrusted me to this position for him, wouldn't he see my heart after all these years, and to recognize I've served him? And it goes back into this wild chaos that you and I just discussed. You can't serve two idols. And that's what I'm realizing now. I'm realizing now that I was worshiping him.
In your mind, what would the consequence have been if you didn't worship him?
Say that question again?
Were you checking the camera?
The camera fell asleep.
Oh. Did it?
It's back on now. It did.
Uh-oh, was it not recording?
I don't know. I'll find out in post. I was just crying now. I'm trying to get back to center gravity here. Tell me your question again.
If you were serving two masters and you were worshiping your abuser, what were you telling yourself in regards to the consequences of what will happen if I don't do this?
Because I wasn't even considering it. Because if I were to consider it, then I would be turning my back on him.
So that's the answer.
Yeah.
Shame.
Mm-hmm.
So go back in time when I would ask you, what's stopping you from being free? Why are you here? Why are you not seeking freedom? The answer to that would have been along the lines of, I will be a bad daughter if I were to leave. And it's my job to make him better, make him feel okay at the expense of myself. Which, I mean, shame and fear they're not twins, but they are related.
Yeah.
Gosh, sorry, there's a dog barking.
That's okay.
But that, so
I
that...
gotta tell you.
Go for it.
Sorry. No, you go ahead.
No, I know what I want to say. You go for it.
Thanks, because I'll forget what I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
I have to come to a point to acknowledge that it's okay for me to have these emotions. I get upset and frustrated if I finally. By the way, the camera fell asleep again, so it's gonna be off for a little bit. If I'm getting to a point where it's taking me, example, so long for me to realize that emotion that we just discovered, I immediately start thinking, I should have known that from the get-go, and I didn't. But as I'm processing this emotion live, I want to encourage others to know that just because you finally get it, quote unquote, too late, doesn't mean it's too late to get out and to solve and to resolve where you're at. I mean, I think, honestly, in my circumstance, it's my testimony. It was a good portion of my life. And one of these days, several years from now, it's not going to be the majority of my life anymore of that abuse. But for now, I'm frustrated that I didn't get it and didn't realize that. But I'm thankful that we got to that point because it gets me to a better understanding to speak into others. It's the lies that I told myself, like I'm going to be a bad daughter, that kept me to stay. Where God has called me to being his child, and I'd rather be worshiping him and serving him and knowing that I am his daughter and he loves me and that he holds my heart. And it's been shattered, it's been broken, and he is willing to trade his heart with mine so that way I can have freedom and know what life is like without the broken pieces.
Yeah.
You were gonna say?
You keep checking the camera.
It fell asleep. I'm trying to turn it back on.
I think it still stays on. It just goes like into a mode. But anyway, watch. You might be undoing it. You might be canceling it every single time.
Oh well.
No, I mean, I don't know. I there are countless things that we tell ourselves to excuse what we're going through.
Yep.
Do you need to go check your camera?
I just did it. We're good. We're recording now.
No, there's just countless things that we tell ourselves for why it's better for us to stay.
Yeah.
Why leaving is not an option. Yeah. And you have to come to that on your own. You have to experience that. When you left your abuser, it wasn't just 6 months after coming back into town and then you moved out and then that was the last straw. You still were going to sessions with him for months.
I had two more sessions with him. And as far as I remember, after my last straw conversation with him, I went completely no contact with him. I contacted my counselor and expressed what happened. But it was very minimal communication.
It was minimal.
Yes. I was gonna say, if it actually didn't happen, it certainly emotionally on my end, I know it was very limited. But I want to say the blow up happened in May, and it didn't take until that following August for me to actually cut ties, because between May and August, I still was believing those lies.
Right. It was,
and I just didn't know how to navigate what is life going to look like after the fact. I didn't know how to even think that far.
Yeah, it was more of like March and April because it was Easter when you left.
I'm sorry.
And so
it was May.
No.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Easter doesn't really go out that far, but spring breakish, which is usually late March, early April. And for you, yeah, you're right. You only had like a few sessions with him, but you had numerous sessions with your counselor.
Yeah.
And the narrative, even back then, was, are you, from your counselor, I feel like, I could be wrong, you can correct me, but I don't think it was your idea to go talk to your abuser. It was just, hey, if your abuser wants to talk to you and is willing to hear, and I think he is willing to hear, are you willing to meet up? And the mantra was, well, you have nothing to lose if you do. And I was more of the, you just got like annihilated by this dude. Like, we have the video of it.
Yeah.
You know,
I still have the video of it.
I do too. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, for me, it was just like, do you really, like, for me back then, it was like, do you really think that he's changed? Do you really think it took that moment for there to be something to just flip off and switch? You know, and you know, you still went through with having some more sessions, and eventually, you know, you made your choice. But it wasn't so black and white of, oh yeah, I'm done with this, it's time for me to go. There was still a lot of back and forth, and I couldn't really help you in that case. Even though we were living together, I still had to be like, look, if that's what you want, go for it, but you're going to need like some supernatural daily Jesus every hour kind of anointing to do that. And you forget to eat. So good luck with that. Like, it was like, you know, like you like, you know, there's just so much going on. And it's like, look, if that's what you're going to do, and if that's what God wants you to do, I'm not going to get in the way of it. But I don't think that you are obligated to keep trying to see if can relationships still happen, or can he hear me, or can we build something. It's like, girl, he blew up that bridge, and you're like, yeah, but are there still a few pieces of bridge left down there in the water that we can just pick back up and just try to hammer out? And just, it's like, no, you'll find out.
No. Then it became let me go on this lifeboat and go. I paddle across the ocean by myself real quick and try and get to him. I was doing the majority of the work. I was doing all of the work.
You were.
And I thought by doing all the work, it would prove to him. And that's so sad. I want to finish this episode now.
Yeah.
I want to go get ice cream.
No, I mean, I think, you know, I think there's a lot of reasons for why we choose to be in abuse, and why we choose to overlook or not consider the truth, or look the other way, or downplay what's really happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
We
and
are
it's
we are
hard.
beings that look for love and look for being seen and valued. And the moment that we get any remnants of what that could look like and what our definition of what that means, if we get any possibility of what that is in somebody else and their definition is different, we're going to make every excuse possible for us to stay in that because we're so hungry and starved of it, and don't consider the fact that we're starved and we're eating crap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not providing nourishment to us. It's not actually healthy for us. It's actually going to cause us more damage because we're so starved. We're so blinded into what the damage is doing to us.
Yep.
But the reason why God has designed us is for us to experience Him. And only He can fulfill the areas that we are so starved in.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried for so many years to try to find it elsewhere. And I wondered why I wound up homeless. I wondered why I was still so unmet in so many areas of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And all it really comes down to is I wasn't designed to maintain my father's chaos. He made me believe I was supposed to. He made me believe our younger brother and I were supposed to help him and guide him and make him better, because he just warped the belief that if we love him, we'll help him type of thing. But that was never my responsibility. My responsibility here on this earth is just to learn who God is, learn His love, and how can we give that into others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a good place to end. I don't know if we ended on the same topic line of how we started, but we
No.
landed the plane somehow. So,
Well, yeah, we landed the plane somehow. Yes, we did. You would be correct. It totally went different than intended, but I don't mind the difference because I learned something new about myself, and it's sticky, but I'm thankful that we were able to navigate accordingly, though, because whoever does end up watching this episode, I'm not afraid for people to see my crying, because I've already cried so many times before, but especially for me to realize something that raw in this instance is a first. I think, anyways. I don't remember. I just want other people to be I want other people to see God's freedom in their life too.
yeah.
And if it's through this podcast, if it's through our words, I hope it can be found by the right people who are hungry for the right things, and they're hungry for what God has in store for them.
Yeah.
So with that, do you have anything else to say?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing and uncovering some knowledge that was kind of buried down below.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, thanks for challenging it.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, I'm really good at that with you.
Yeah, you are.
One of these days we need to have an episode of all of our favorite lies that our abuser told us. and kind of compare
Hypo-
notes.
Favorite lies?
Correct.
Like, not actually favorite. Like, this is my absolute favorite thing. Wasn't it so good? Or
Just
laugh
like
at favorite
it's
lies.
yeah to laugh at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe that's next episode.
Yeah,
Who
you
knows?
just have to be very intentional on it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for right
Ellie
now,
will be like,
though,
I didn't think about it at all, so I have no memories. So you have
I
to
don't know.
you have to think about
My
it.
entire life was a lie. This up until
Well,
25. So
well, I'm not talking about like those ones. I'm talking about like
smaller lies.
how mom was giving me money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll have to do my homework and talk to mom. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on that note, everybody, we bid you goodbye.
Goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Until next time.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.